2, 1. So after over a year of our one-bedroom apartment being a makeshift office and gym, my husband and I closed on a duplex. Not only do we get extra space, but we have a whole other unit that can generate income for a possible renter or Airbnb. And of course, we got the idea from someone that plays a big role in a lot of my life-changing decisions, Danny Mason. But I call him Dad.
When I was growing up, early 70s into the 80s, I seen that Black ownership was the goal. Every manufacturer, worker, you want to say, the goal was to own a home. And that's the way I grew up.
You're listening to Speaking Of, a podcast by Milwaukee PBS. I'm Alexandria Mack, your host, and we're talking about building intergenerational wealth in the Black communities, specifically through real estate. With me in the studio are fellow producers Mariano Avila.
Hey.
And Scotty Myers.
Hi, Lexi.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, and you?
Good. A little stressful, but can't complain. Exciting, but new times.
How new?
So new that I have not yet moved from my apartment, but I'm already having homeowner woes as far as moving refrigerators and figuring out when I'm going to cut my grass and learning that my husband is not really handy. So definitely was a little stressful time, as everyone knows the market is really crazy right now, but I'm really excited that we were able to find a place that we both really like, and I'm excited to just see the changes we're able to make in the next couple of years and just make it feel like home.
And I would hazard to guess that you are on the lower end of the average age of a homeowner. I don't think young people like you are buying homes right now. That's pretty
Not statistically,
impressive.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, definitely of my friends, I am the first, which is exciting. But I think it kind of depends what stage of life you're in. Like, I think we're both settling right now and not knowing.
You and Brian, your husband.
Yes. Not trying to move right away, whereas some people in my age range are still trying to figure out where they want to be, where they want to settle. So I'm happy that I kind of figured that out early. So today we're going to be talking about my journey to homeownership and why me and my husband opted into a duplex instead of a single family home, and kind of some of the background into that decision. Speaking of moving, for the longest time I've heard the line that if you really want to build wealth, you have to own real estate. Even if it's just owning your home, even if it's just a side hustle. Ownership is foundational to building generational wealth and leaving something more for your family besides debt. As a kid, I saw my dad live this out with real estate being somewhat of his side gig. And now as an adult, I've learned just how much he was setting me up for my own financial success in the future.
I think anytime you're dealing with family and trying to leave people things, it's a legacy type thing that everybody wants to be better than the next, and that's basically what has motivated families to do better.
Growing up in Milwaukee during the early 70s, manufacturing jobs drove Southern Black families to the land of beer and brats in hopes of working their way to the middle class. With big-name plants like A.O. Smith, Briggs & Stratton, Schlitz Brewery, or Alice Chalmers, these opportunities created an era where the city was one of the best places in the country to raise a Black family. In fact, in 1970, about 85% of Black men in Milwaukee held jobs, compared to in 2010 after the Great Recession, where that number had dropped to about 1 in 2.
Do you have any sense of why that happened? Just broadly speaking, not getting into too many details of statistics, but like what happened in those 40 years, 50 years?
A lot of those plants closed, and that was the main source of jobs. So once those plants closed, there were less opportunities, specifically for Black people. A lot of those plants were in Black neighborhoods, and so the Black residents were working and living in those neighborhoods. But once those jobs were gone, there wasn't a lot of opportunities left, and now a lot of those neighborhoods, I wouldn't say have been abandoned, but they definitely have not been kept up well, and those there hasn't been a replenishing of opportunities in them.
There's been some recent efforts by the city to try to churn up manufacturing jobs. There's Century City, but it's hard to rev up that engine. And the city is trying to put together deals, working with the private sector, because I think we all recognize by that stat alone that it's not good enough, that people are struggling, and that The manufacturing jobs had decent to good paid wages that, really helped sustain neighborhoods and blocks and communities and just a way of life.
My father was the first Mason to be in Wisconsin, and he ended up owning his home. From there, he worked at Alice Chandler's, and on the side, he was a plumber and he repaired homes. And on the weekend, I would be carrying these buckets. Every Saturday, me and my brother, we'd help him, and we'd be carrying these buckets. And we, looked at things and figured out how to repair stuff also. And as I pursued my life, I didn't want to carry those buckets. And I remember one day I told him, I'm not going to be fixing these houses, I'm going to be owning them. And in my teen years, I started working at Love's Liquor. And, I learned the liquor business, and he was also in the real estate.
Lee Love grew to be my dad's mentor, helping him form his own vision of success. Love owned nearly 20 businesses, including daycares, a car dealership, a funeral home, and his flagship business, the Love's Liquor franchise, that held 14 different locations. So yeah, for someone going for the big bucks, Lee Love was a good mentor to get you there.
And I learned from him that owning real estate was a collaboration of things: credit scores, real estate agents, and bankers. Then I went to college and got a degree, and then started my family, and on the side, I did real estate.
My dad got his start with duplexes around 1998 with hopes of saving money to send my sister and I to college. Although the price tag of college wasn't nearly as expensive as it is today, even back then he knew that a 9-to-5 alone wouldn't cut it.
As I grew into it, I realized I can get a piece of pie today, and then at the end game, I have the whole pie. So those were motivational things. And then you can look at it as many other ways. It becomes family-oriented. These are things that your family will have to learn. Everybody's going to buy a house. And then real estate is a piece of the American pie. You got to, at many levels. So, and we're just talking common folks. For me, I always seen it like, as being a black man, corporate America's going to give you so much. And then you got to get your other slice from somewhere else. And why not real estate?
Only 7% of Black Milwaukeeans own their homes. That American pie he's talking about isn't making it to a lot of African American households.
If you want to look at home ownership, Black people are less likely to own a home, and their homes are likely to be worth less as well.
That's Kristen Brody from the Hamilton Project, named after America's first architect of American prosperity, Alexander Hamilton. It's a policy institute based in D.C. that studies economic initiatives that can benefit Americans.
So according to the U.S. Census, the homeownership rate for white non-Hispanic Americans was 75.8% compared to 61% for Asian Americans, 50.9% for Latinx, and only 46.4% for Black Americans, right? So we were the lowest on that. And then the home value is awesome. So a 2020 report from Zillow revealed that the typical home owned by Black and Latino homeowners is 16.2% and 10.2% less valuable, respectively, than the typical U.S. home overall, right? So less likely to own a home, and the houses that we own are worth less. When you think about being able to afford a home, the unemployment rate for us is generally the highest. There has been discrimination historically in terms of access to banking, access to credit, trying to get a good mortgage, right? Like not a subprime mortgage, not one of these ones where the arm is going to explode to some ridiculous interest rate after 2 or 3 years. So all of those have been systemic barriers to Black people accumulating wealth that they could pass on to the next generation.
Even though African Americans make up 13% of the population, we're only about 6% of people working in the real estate industry.
What are the ramifications of a real estate industry not having Black and brown people,
I think that translates directly to the lack of Black home ownership. You know, it's different when you have people that look like you that are walking you through the process and you can see that it's attainable. And just think of how big the real estate industry is. Like, for so long, I thought it was just realtors, but no, there's commercial real estate. There are the people who may do renovations or the people that may be overseeing construction. There's so many jobs available that is what made that number really startling to me, because the real estate industry isn't just realtors. It's really so many different opportunities available. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I did meet a local boss lady.
I am Tia Cannon, founder of ANC Real Estate.
She's a young Black woman. She's 31 years old and simply said she's doing it all. She's juggling multiple renovative developments in the city. She is super fly, according to her Instagram.
And this boss lady, I know a little something about because you produced a video segment that aired on Milwaukee PBS's Black Nouveau.
Oh, that's right.
And it was incredible to see that space. And also, this is a plug for all of you listening that you should go to our YouTube page and watch it, because it is really stunning to see the descriptions and the transformation of this physical space that means so much to her, clearly.
What is the segment called so people can go look for it?
Women Leading Change. So it was the Women's History Month episode where I spoke to women in different industries making impact in the city of Milwaukee.
And please tell me her lower third read Tia Cannon, boss lady.
No, a missed opportunity. Now that I think about it.
Next time you just say boss lady.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about this project.
So this particular project is called the Community Within the Corridor. It's for the community, by the community. This development is 197 units. There will be just opportunities for people to come and play chess, checkers, and things like that. There's going to be a food hall here.
So how much does a development like this cost? Like, how much do y'all have to invest into this building?
A lot was invested into this particular building. Developments like this cost a lot of money. And so the budget for this development was $66 million. Yeah.
That's a pretty penny.
It is a pretty penny. It is.
But for 31-year-old Cannon, the value of this project is more than just the price tag. The project is in her childhood neighborhood. And remember those industrial jobs I talked about earlier? She's overseeing the construction of renovating a former Briggs & Stratton plant into an affordable housing complex, reinvesting in an area that for too long has been left without jobs or new opportunities.
You gotta be willing to get your hands dirty. You have to be willing to stand up for what you believe in, because there's a politics side of real estate too, especially from the side of development, right? Because for some people it's just an investment, but for other people like myself who grew up on Center Street, this is something that is near and dear to me, with my grandparents being the first Black owners, in this area. My aunts, the only Black girls at Washington High School. To what it is now, to see it be brought back up as it deteriorated is something in itself too.
When I spoke to Tia and my dad, they both brought up the idea of building legacies for their kids to inherit.
The fact that my kids one day are going to need to own their own homes and have their own families and create their own wealth, but having something that they can step into that they will be able to survive off of if need be. 20 years from now, they'll be able to come back to the same location and say, I remember when me and my sister were 10 and 6 years old, and we actually were in this space before it was anything. Is the most rewarding thing, to be able to see something that I was a part of, that not only because I was a part of it, they were a part of it too. Truly, that's what legacy is about.
When you leave a legacy, make sure that everything is intact and you provided a path that the next person can do better. You can do better if you know better.
So for my dad, for Tia, for all real estate developers, it's more than a house. It's more than beams and bathrooms and bedrooms. It's a nest egg, a piggy bank, a future.
This is a really good set of stories that you brought us. I think it's an important conversation that we're having. I mean, you and I are both on the same path of like home ownership, me moving here and having to figure out two different real estate markets, one selling, the other one buying. And also doing so as, a person of color. It's a very different experience. And
Yeah, and for me, I loved meeting the characters in this story, Lexi.
Thanks for listening.